Today, we're going to talk about a story that honestly sounds like it's straight out of science fiction. It's a story about survival and science and, well, profound loneliness. It's about a botanical king who has no queen, a living fossil from the age of dinosaurs, and the incredible century-long quest to save it from disappearing forever.
Just let that sink in for a second. An entire species represented by a single gender scattered all across the globe as perfect genetic copies of each other. That's the huge mystery we're unpacking today. What happens when the very last of your kind is just you?
All right, so the plant at the very heart of this story is called Encephalartos woodii, but most people know it by its nickname, the loneliest plant in the world. And believe me, it has earned that title.
Get this. Every single Encephalartos woodii on the entire planet, whether it's in a garden in London or Durban, is a clone. They are all exact genetic copies of one single plant found by a botanist named John Medley Wood way back in 1895. And since then, no other wild ones have ever been found. Not a single one. So its official status is extinct in the wild. That means, yeah, the species technically still exists, but it's completely vanished from its natural home. It only survives today in collections and botanical gardens. It's basically a living museum piece, and it's totally dependent on us to keep it going.
So what is this plant, really? Well, to get a handle on its strange situation, we've got to go way, way back. Because this isn't just any old plant. It's a living fossil, a true relic from a lost world.
You know, the scale of time we're talking about here is just staggering. This plant's ancestors, the cycads, they were everywhere when dinosaurs roamed the Earth. It survived mass extinctions, ice ages, you name it, only to be reduced to a single, known individual in our time. And by 1916, that last wild plant was moved to a botanic garden, which sealed its fate. It was officially gone from the wild.
Now, cycads might look a bit like palm trees, but they're a much, much older group of plants. They grow super slowly and can live for an incredibly long time. But here's the most important thing for our story. They have separate male and female plants. You absolutely need both to reproduce.
And that brings us right to the heart of the problem. That single plant discovered by John Medley Wood? It was a male, a king without a queen. And for more than 100 years, scientists have been on this desperate, almost mythical search for his mate.
There's a scientific term for this. It's called dioecious. It comes from the Greek for two houses. So you can think of it like this. The male parts are in one house, and the female parts are in a completely different house. Our plant makes pollen, sure, but with no female plant to receive it, no seeds can ever be made. It's a dead end.
I mean, this isn't just some weird biological fact. It is a full-blown evolutionary dead end. So what are the real consequences when an entire species is stuck like this?
Well, it means the species can only be copied, not actually reproduced. Gardeners create clones by taking these little offshoots from the base of the plant and growing them. But that means there's zero mixing of genes, no adaptation, no evolution. And that lack of genetic diversity makes the whole species incredibly fragile. A single disease could literally wipe all of them out in one go.
Okay, so the search for a wild female lamea has come up empty for over a century. So, science has turned to a much more radical and, yeah, controversial solution. A pretty wild attempt to literally create a mate for our lonely plant.
This is just a fascinating long-term plan. So here's how it works. First, scientists take pollen from our male plant and use it to pollinate a female of a really close relative. Now, if they're lucky, the hybrid that grows from that seed is a female. Then, they begin what's called backcrossing. They take pure pollen from our lonely plant again and pollinate that new female hybrid. The next generation is now 75% E. woodii. They just keep repeating this process for decades, maybe even centuries, slowly breeding out the other species' genes until they have something that's almost a pure female E. woodii.
But, as you can imagine, this whole plan has sparked a pretty big debate. Is a hybrid really the same species? Some conservationists say that watering down its unique genes is basically just another way for it to go extinct. But others argue that, hey, saving most of its genetic code in a plant that can actually reproduce is way better than just letting it vanish completely.
So why does all of this even matter? I mean, why pour so much time and effort into saving one lonely plant? Well, because its story, it's a symbol for a much, much bigger crisis that's happening right now. You see,
Woodii might be the most extreme case, but it is definitely not alone. Over 60% of all cycad species are threatened with extinction. That makes them one of the most endangered groups of living things on the entire planet, mostly because of habitat loss and illegal poaching.
And this is why institutions like Kew Gardens and the Durban Botanic Gardens are so incredibly important. They've basically become modern-day Noah's Arks for plants. They're safeguarding these species from being wiped out forever. And just as important, they're sharing their stories with all of us to inspire action.
And so we're left with this really tough dilemma. The story of this one lonely plant forces us to face the hard choices of conservation today. In a world that we've shaped so much, what does it really mean to save a species? And how far are we willing to go to make sure that the loneliest plant on Earth doesn't die alone?